Riverside.
Hello, and welcome into the Sad Fan, where we talk about the good, the bad, and everything that makes us sad. Before we introduce ourselves this week, some stuff happened after we went off the air last week and after the edit was done. Some stuff that made us look foolish, and some stuff that made us sad, just in general. So, in regards to Grant Wahl, one thing that I want to say is when we're young, we feel invincible and we forget that time is fleeting. It defeats all of us. And we don't quite understand the moment we're living in when we're living in it. I had cited a bunch of Grant Wahl's work while we were talking about the World Cup this season. And I want to say that without the 99ers and without football on the Meadowlark Network and without the most recent Meadowlarkers, which I woke up to the news and said, wow, I just listened to him talk about the World Cup in Qatar on Meadowlarkers 2 weeks ago, a week ago or so, whenever the incident had occurred with the rainbow shirt. And I said, this is wild. And it's not just wild because Grant Wahl was only 48 years old. It's wild because his wife was a doctor, Celine Gounder. I had listened to her multiple times speak on COVID, speak on what her friends were going through when it came to COVID, why we should all do our best to not just believe in COVID, but to fight COVID. And he was a part of that, and that's also who he was. He was an advocate for those that didn't have an advocate. He was an advocate for football or soccer in America when we didn't have one. And he reminded us all to take time to live. And that's something that I want to say, and that's one of the reasons why we started the podcast, was to remind people, hey, take a moment to live. Understand that there are alternative opinions, there are alternative intelligences, and that everybody knows a little bit about something. And if we could take a little bit of that knowledge, we could all grow. And I think that when I would read or listen to Grant Wahl's work on soccer or on football, that is a knowledge that I gained, and it made me a better person, helped me grow. And again, he was just 48 years old when he died. And he died, I like to think, doing something he loved, which was covering the game of Argentina and Netherlands. And he died in a place that he was fighting against. I don't want to say fighting in terms of at war with. It was more like to inform, fighting to inform Qatar on what was incorrect about their human rights violations and how they treated people. Not telling them they should live in a different way, just informing, which is what our journalist does. I'm informing you on why this may not be the right thing to do. But I want to go back to that we are young, and when we are young, we feel invincible. But we do always need to keep in mind that time is fleeting. Him being 48 is just 14 years, almost less than 14 years, older than me. And it reminds me that we don't know when it could happen. And it could happen when we're doing our favorite thing. And when time comes for us, you need to ask yourself, did I let people I was around know that I loved them? Did I fight for what was right? Did I try to inform when I fought? Or did I just fight to fight? And I think we need to be more like Grant Wahl and fight to inform, fight to grow the game, fight to grow the world, and take time to live in the moments that you're in. Take time to do the things that you love to do. And don't be afraid to tell the people in your life that you love them. I will let you know, I let the staff at the Sad Fan know that I love them all the time. I tell the gentleman that we do the show with that I love him every time we're on the phone. I tell the people that are close to me, hey, before we get off, I love you. No matter what happens, if we're in an argument or something's heated, it's important for me that they know you're important, you're valuable. And it is time that plays a factor in that. And I do think that that is something that we all need to consider. So, in honor of a life that was snuffed out way too soon, thank you, Grant Wahl, for everything you do with Sports Illustrated, with LeBron James, with Freddie Adu, with women's soccer in the 99ers, with Meadowlarkers and informing us what was going on in Qatar, and with football, introducing a whole new American fan base to what could be the United States' greatest generation when it comes to this World Cup. So that is it for me. We're going to get into regular show once we're done with what made us sad, because we want to make sure Wes gets his opportunity, because he lives in Washington State, who did a beautiful tribute to Mike Leach. So go ahead, Wes.
Yeah, it was really shocking to hear. I saw in the news that Mike Leach suffered a heart issue over the weekend, and then I woke up this morning to the news that he had passed, and it had kind of been the writing on the wall just by what was leaking out of social media. But it's a terrible thing. I think he was 61 years old, and it's kind of sad because I also had a family member that just passed away suddenly from a heart attack. But Mike Leach, he's been a big part of my college football experience. I started watching him when he was at Texas Tech, and I think probably like one of my favorite moments of college football was Texas Tech versus Texas. I think it was 2008 when they finished with 11 wins. And that miraculous catch by Michael Crabtree was just like something like outlandish and special. And the things he did, he went to Texas Tech and Washington State, two rural, small college towns, and he took both of those teams to 11 wins at one point. More wins in a season than any other coach has done with those two teams. And when he came to Washington State, they did an introductory press conference here in Seattle. And so I went to that with my friend who was a Texas Tech fan. And listening to him talk, he's sensational as always. He always has jokes, whether it's like from a mascot battle, talking about Pac-12 mascots, or talking about how much he hates candy corn. I mean, it was always fun listening to him speak, and the impact he's had on college football and football in general, with the air raid offense. His coaching tree is phenomenal. Lincoln Riley, Sonny Cumbie, Dana Holgerson, Art Briles, Josh Heupel, Sonny Dykes, Cliff Kingsbury. It's phenomenal. And he was always fun to watch, even when you were playing against him. He went 4-4 against Oregon during his 8 years with Washington State. And I always knew whenever we were playing Washington State, it was going to be a battle, because we had a good offense, they have a good offense, and it was just going to be a massive shootout every time. It was going to be like in the 50s, and you never know what was going to happen, because like we knew what was coming. We knew they were going to throw it. We knew they were going deep every time, but you couldn't stop it. And it was just so much fun to watch, like whether you were playing against him or like somebody else. And I think the other thing that you look at where he's been, and I think Lane Kiffin and Chris Peterson were talking about it, but they both had big rivalries with him for Washington State, and then the Egg Bowl, Mississippi and Mississippi State. And everyone just talks about like how he kind of took the toxicity out of those rivalries. Like a lot of people were telling Lane Kiffin that the Egg Bowl, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State, used to like have a lot of like real bitterness and stuff. And just the relationship that he had with Mike Leach kind of really took the toxicity out of a lot of that. And I just think he's like, despite like what people might think of him, because like he was outspoken, he always did it his way. It was his way or the highway, and I just, it's going to be, college football is a sadder place without him, and it's a lot emptier. So we'll miss you, and smooth sailing, Pirate.
Smooth sailing, Pirate. Now, though that was sadder than we usually lead with, usually there's some comedy in some of the things that made us sad. Usually we have some fun with it. We wanted to make sure we did those send-offs, and Chelsea's going to help us seamlessly transition into our show with what made her sad this week. And sorry to put that weight on your shoulders, just like a man putting all the heavy lifting on a woman. So I apologize, Chelsea.
Well, this is the sad fan, and we're sad this week.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and unfortunately, it just gets kind of heavier from here. The fallout from the World Cup and the various things that have happened there have been just monumental. there's been some major reporting that's come up the last week where Qatar has basically gone back to different ministers within the European Union and has bribed them, has come off with just a bunch of schemes basically to turn some PR tricks, and it's going to be very ugly because these are going to turn into full-blown corruption and bribery investigations, as well as arrests and just an implosion. Turn into. I mean,
we've been there, right? We've been there with FIFA bribery, corruption in Qatar.
So yes, absolutely. So this has been FIFA, and yes, Brussels has gotten involved, as well as the United States DOJ has gotten involved. But this is something else entirely. This is the country of Qatar going and approaching ministers from Italy and trying to bribe them with $100,000 vacations and things like that. But moving there's just so much more now because it's really entrenched itself from just the event, the World Cup, into this is a country that is toxic. You can't get within spending distance from these guys without finding something underneath that is just not as it seems, right? It's not just the normal diplomatic channels and things like that. It is just straight up corruption. So there's some issues that are probably going to be some more investigation that's going to be done over the coming weeks coming out of that. There's also, on a little bit lighter note, the fallout from the U.S. men's team and everything that's going on with Reyna and how it's turned into this whole separate sideshow of not even just was he used to his fullest potential, we were talking about why there might have been actual reasons to kind of to make sure that he was playing at different times and kind of minimizing his starts. But again, there's a lot of blame being cast Berhalter's way. It's just a very ugly kind of sideshow. And for a lot of Americans who are kind of wondering, well, why didn't we win? We're America. We're supposed to just win the thing. We're supposed to win the World Series.
The new fans. The new fans, right? The new fans.
Still, I mean, yes, but there's always this kind of well, what, even for the old fans, okay, which, I've been around the sun a few years. There's still kind of this, well, what were we doing the last 4 years? What were we doing the last 8 years? What were we doing in this whole time span? How have we not coached up, kids and moved them into, the U18 leagues, into the U21s, into college?
Well, we didn't really have
we're the richest country. We're the richest country.
Yeah, but we didn't really have those leagues prior to Jurgen Klinsmann, though. Jurgen Klinsmann really helped us set up those institutions, our under 18, our under 20. And he's German, so he's not even American.
We did, though. But we did. Were they as fully federated as they are now? I'm not really sure. Yeah, there's still a lot of questions. And I mean, should we go to FIFA and ask for our national development funds? I don't know. Again, in terms of everything that's happening, we really do need to take a look back at the basics in the United States, what we have here in terms of player development, and really just work on it, because I mean, there's not really a whole lot of excuses for what happened in the World Cup. It's just, we just need to do better next time is really what it comes down to. And the last note that I've been kind of holding off on is that there was a lot of discussion about the Iranian men's team and the United States playing them and what that meant and what all the significance was. It has actually come out that one of the players, Amir Nasser Azadani, faces execution back in Iran for the statements that he's made. This is nothing new. There was a rock climber who did not wear her hijab. There was, I believe,
and she won,
player.
Right? The rock climber actually won.
Yeah. So
she brought them their first championship in that sport.
Yeah, and then she disappeared for a while. after that, just trying to find asylum in other countries. Like, there are all sorts of issues that are happening with Iran. They are very, very real. And now one of the men from the Iranian national team actually faces execution as a result and as a consequence of speaking out. And so when you look back at these press conferences that were being held, and the U.S. men's team was being asked questions like, why are you playing a country like this? Like, why, or like, how do you feel that they haven't spoken out? Well, the consequences of these men speaking out, regardless of what their true feelings are, the consequence of them speaking out is their lives, potentially. So what do you do in this situation if it's a no-win situation for these guys? And we're not really sure. It looks like what will happen. It looks like the pace of executions for protesting the government there in Iran is unfortunately ramping up, and it's grotesque.
And it's not just Iran, and it's not just football. I think one of the things that's important about that story is Wes says a lot of shit on this show, and I don't think once he's ever, so do I, and so does Chelsea, I don't think once we've ever been concerned with our lives being at stake in doing the show.
No.
Right? So say what you will. Yes, we are a very young country that's constantly having to go through growing pains, doing the wrong things sometimes, and it's important to acknowledge that. But not once have I worried about, hey, if I go to my store and I choose McDonald's over Burger King, will I be put to death? And I say that somewhat facetiously, but it is true to the extent of Amir Nasser, because he is going to be put to death for not singing his national anthem. And I remember being in high school, I want to say, and people not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
well,
they weren't. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I could just like go to DC. Like, I could go in front of the White House and I could just like scream like all the obscenities I want about the current administration or whatever, and I don't have to worry about anything.
Except for getting punched in the face by someone passing by, maybe.
Yeah,
but not part of our government.
Well, I mean, that's not to say that actions in this country don't have consequences, right? Like, Kaepernick took the knee for the anthem, but that was on a public stage, and there were consequences leveled back at him.
Yeah.
The biggest difference is not from our government. Our government never once stepped in and said, you aren't allowed to do that. You have to stand. You have to put your hand over your heart. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. It was just, he was allowed to do these things, and just the same way that he was allowed to do those things, the companies that were sponsoring him or, paying some of his salary, whatever, they were also, as a matter of free speech, allowed to not continue contracts with him. That is just the way things work here. Things kind of sort themselves out. So
there's a court of public opinion here. And
exactly.
that has been the case for quite some time, and that has been the case because we were, and we're starting to get back to it, I hope, a journalist state, a safe haven for journalists to write stories, to tell on the government when the government's in trouble. I mean, it's been put at risk lately with the whole fake news movement and with social media actually reporting fake news, thus perpetrating what is in fact a lie. Like, the Boston Globe is not reporting on fake things. The Times is not reporting on fake things. The Post is not reporting on fake things. All of you need to understand that these stories that come out are very well researched and take years, months to years to research before they can even edit these stories. These journalists put their lives into it. So for people to be ignorant and choose their favorite YouTube conspiracy theorist, shout out Gorp, we did a show. Check it out. It's on our network. Choose these conspiracy theorists over people that are educated and make it their life's work for years to do these things is crazy. And getting off the East here, I just want to say that, hey, China's not immune. Peng Shui came out in 2021, post-COVID, and accused a member of China's political party or government of assaulting her sexually. She was the number 2 tennis star in the entire world at the time and disappeared, only to be shown on Chinese state television in the creepiest possible room ever, giving the creepiest possible interview about how she was safe. And that was months after she disappeared. Months after she disappeared, and people were calling for her calling for a search for her. Where is she? Right? Very well known, and they just made her disappear. So it's not just Iran. There are other countries that will just take you off the street for doing something that is anti them. And it's important every day to realize, hey, we don't worry about that. Now, Gio Reyna, I would really like to come back to the Gio Reyna thing. And Chelsea, I promise you, we did talk about the whole United States being bad. And I said, I think it's a matter of us having too many sports available, right? We have our best athletes are probably in the NBA. And I'm an NFL fan, but I will admit our best athletes are probably in the NBA. They're phenomenal athletes, fast, tall, strong, quick, can play multiple sports, right? Then we have the NFL, which is the most popular sport in the United States. And then we have baseball, and then probably coming up the rear, just ahead of hockey, would be soccer or football, right? So I think that sport has had to suffer through that here. Go ahead, Chelsea.
Well, I was just going to say that the number one sport that elementary school and up are engaged in is actually soccer and has been for at least 20 years.
It's not, though. Baseball.
Yes, it is.
It's baseball and t-ball.
No, because I'm talking about boys and girls. Like,
softball.
Almost, no.
No, not that many girls play softball. Way more girls play soccer than softball.
Yeah. I'm gonna go dig some numbers up, but you keep talking.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, like I played soccer too, but I mean, I think one of the reasons for that is just because of the ease of access.
Yeah, and now it's not. I think we talked about on here, Wes. It's now an elitist sport. Now you have to have money to be competitive within soccer. You just do in the United States. If you want to be cited or seen, you have to go to a traveling academy. Go ahead.
Well,
Wes.
yeah. But just like as a child to play it, it's cheaper because you don't need the padding that you do with football. Like there's really not much gear associated with it, like shin pads and a ball. You know, it's a lot cheaper than football, hockey, basketball. You need a building indoors for the most part. I mean, unless you just do like street ball, which is like just like in your backyard, but.
What's funny is, Wes, you're making an argument for playground sports. It sounds like, and it sounds like Chelsea's doing the same thing. Like this is what we play on the playground, and that's not what this is about.
No, children's leagues.
No,
children's leagues,
organized leagues.
Okay,
and organized leagues. You still play indoors.
The most heavily played sports once people get into their teenage or formative years, so middle school up, are going to be basketball, football, and baseball.
Yeah, it's actually basketball. I just looked. It's basketball's number one. Baseball second, and then soccer, then tennis. But
what about for like elementary to like teenage?
Yeah, that's what I was.
But you're talking playground sports, and even there, I would tell you I was always going to.
But everyone starts at something. Like if you're a child, like all the best stars.
Don't you yell at me,
they
young
started.
Man.
Oh, shut up! All the best stars they started when they were children. They started as a child. Like they didn't just decide like in high school. Oh, I'm going to play this. Except for like
there's also a cultural
few.
influence, Wes. There's a cultural influence there, and our culture has not picked up soccer.
Oh, I know.
As far as mainstream is concerned, and I will tell you, like I just did,
because kids,
you're citing a lot of playground sports, and I will tell you again, I would go out and play 3 flies up football, or I would play touch football. On the playground or on the grass, it was very rare to see kids out there playing soccer, and I love soccer.
That's
I love soccer.
I'm talking about organized youth.
I'm not talking about like
organized
youth
organizations.
I mean, maybe it's different, but I mean, my brother and I grew up in Arizona, which is not like, I don't think it's like that abnormal or that different from the rest of like the southern United States in general, but we did not play any flag football. Like maybe every once in a while they would teach you the rules in
I played,
but no, everyone was playing soccer. And then on the West Coast, soccer for sure. Like that was like the default.
California.
Yeah, I played t-ball, but like whenever I played like touch with my friends, it was always just like at recess, and it was just like little tag football or like tag.
Yeah, and all the like
touch
popular
football.
kids, like all the snobby girls played soccer, all the like stupid preppy boys played soccer. Like just
Yeah,
total
ours
anecdote, but
ours was football. I will say that once I turned 10 years old, and I regret it, and I think I've said that on this show, that I if I had a choice to make again, I would have played soccer, right? I would have invested more time in soccer, but then the cultural impact forced me towards football.
So the thing is, we just don't like in those countries, like they grow up idolizing like their their national heroes, and it's always soccer players. For us, it'll end up being like NFL or basketball or baseball or something like that. And so that's like even if they start out playing soccer, they end up gravitating towards one of those other sports.
Yeah, but we are working in this country towards making soccer more prevalent, making academies more prevalent. And the way to do that is through accessibility. And right now, like I said, it has become an elitist sport. In order to be competitive, you have to have money. And Wes, you're right. You could roll the ball out there. Yes. Gio Reyna had to go play in academies in New York to get discovered. Pulisic, New York. DK, New York. Sargent, New York. Like Weston McKinney, New York. Tyler Adams, New York. So in football, it's becoming that way once you get to high school. Once you get to high school, it's becoming that way. But that's
like IMG Academy.
I will tell you, my league was scouted by Central Catholic High School. My Pop Warner League was scouted by Central Catholic. So they're already doing the work because we already have what Chelsea was alluding to, the infrastructure in place for football.
Right.
We have the infrastructure in place to recruit to high schools. That's not in place yet for soccer. They're not recruiting at that peewee level yet. They're starting to. But right now, if you want to get seen, you need to actually pay to go to these academies. Like, you have to pay to go. So it's still not super accessible to be at the level that you would like to see yourself at or your children at. Which brings me to a child in Gio Reyna. And Chelsea, again, brushed past this. I need America to remember he just turned 20 years old. He was a teenager. And in my experience, teenagers don't like to be told no. And everybody's making a big deal about Gio Reyna being upset that Greg Berhalter had told him, hey, you're going to have a minimized role, which is, hey, no, you're not going to play. And he didn't react to that well because he's 19 years old. He was 19. Okay, I'm not saying what he did was right, but his Instagram statement to me, I felt was totally professional. I felt like he handled that much better than most 19 to 20-year-olds. He's 20 now, before everybody drops into my mentions. Most 19 to 20-year-olds would have handled that situation. I felt like he handled it with class. I felt like he said, hey, I thought this was supposed to be an in-house issue. And I will say here, I'm far more disappointed in Berhalter, who I want to be replaced by either Garrett Southgate, who may leave England, right? Luis Enrique, who just left Spain, or Roberto Martinez, who just left Belgium. I feel like it's better for the development of the game in our nation to get a headliner coach to come in, not somebody that coached the goddamn Columbus Crew in MLS. All right, sorry, Chelsea, you look like you had something you wanted to say.
I have many things to add about like how we could make the men's national team and the women's national team more successful in the United States, and that's first of all, it goes with publicity, just showing the actual games, like the MLS games.
MLS
games,
just got picked up by Fox, so I think that's going to go a huge way.
Sweet.
Apple.
Awesome.
It's moving to Apple soon.
Damn it. Okay.
Yeah. So MLS just got picked up by Fox.
You need to look up their
whatever
contract with
it
Apple.
is. Just show the games like on regular television. They're often on at times where regular American style football is not on. Show the games, just like WNBA. Show the games. Put that on television. People will watch. If you build it, they will come. But also, I do have to question, the idea of bringing in a foreign coach to lead the national team. Is that actually the best move? Do we have no one available?
No.
Who is American, who's maybe played abroad, who understands some of the... No, you're saying no. Okay, fine. Fine. Then we're screwed left, right, and sideways.
No, just not at this level yet. We just don't have anyone. I guess I think the gentleman. His name eludes me at this point. The gentleman that's coaching in Leeds. I want to say he's an American, and he's been doing quite a good job over at Leeds. He's the one that brought in Brendan Aronson, Tyler Adams to Leeds United. I believe he is a U.S. Coach, but he's not leaving. He's not leaving the Premier League to coach the United States. That he would not do that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's Leeds United. I know you're looking it up. Wes, you wanted to make a note about your
Jesse Marsh.
So Fox Sports will carry at least 34 regular season, 8 playoff matches, and the MLS Cup championship games, and at least 15 regular season games will air on the Fox network, like the actual Fox channel.
And Apple TV?
And Apple TV is going to carry the rest.
Okay, so then the Apple TV is carrying the bulk of the games. Fox is going to handle the premier games, the prime games.
Yeah, and it seems like at least like one weekly game is going to be on Fox. And then it also includes 16 Leagues Cup matches on Fox Sports 1 through the round of 16.
Oh, I like the Leagues Cup matches. New Mexico United plays in the Leagues Cup.
Yeah, so that's going to be it's competition between MLS teams and the Mexico League teams.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then to grow on that, there's also like the CONCACAF, which is like everybody in North America all together. So all the Caribbean teams,
represent
the Canadian teams,
CONCACAF Cup champs.
Exactly. And then there's all sorts of things that we could be showing off and displaying, but we're not. And I think that just kind of some of the motivation behind this is like if something is aired once and it doesn't land with hundreds of millions of viewers and eyeballs on it, then it's considered a failure and they just don't try it again. I mean,
so I think the World Cup is going to be a massive turning point.
The Women's World Cup. The first time I mentioned Grant Wahl. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the first time the World Cup was here, that definitely kind of sparked a turnaround. That started the beginning of MLS basically, and MLS had its rough periods, but it's definitely grown quite a bit in the last several years. And I think with all the media attention surrounding the U.S. men's national team this year, and then the past couple World Cups, I think it's really going to spark a turnaround in U.S. soccer.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Grant Wahl and the 99ers, but if you watch some of the documentary that was done by ESPN in the 30 for 30s that they did on the Women's World Cup, you see that nobody thought the Women's World Cup would draw any attention. Nobody believed in the women's team, and the very first game in New York was sold out, and the women could barely get to the game on their bus because they were stuck in traffic getting to the game, and they were tripping out at how many people showed up. They filled out a Coliseum. So I think we consistently underestimate the power of representation, right, and how much it matters. And I think that's what both of you are saying. Hey, let's get some representation with our U.S. soccer. Chelsea, thank you. Jesse Marsh was the coach over at Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the only, I think, American right now that would even be considered, but he's not going to lead the Premier League. I think he's right entrenched in the middle of the pack. I haven't looked at the table in a while because I've been all World Cup. But yeah, he would be the only choice. I would love to see Gareth Southgate come over from England if he does in fact leave England. I love his style. He has shown an affinity for the U.S. game for a while and the progress that the U.S. has made. He's very familiar with football academies as he is from England. So that would be amazing. I would love that. But I would love also to see Roberto Martinez and what he did with Belgium, come over to the United States and maybe turn us into a power, because our talent pool, though it is not the top sport, is very deep. It's very deep talent pool. And we, as you saw with Sergio Dest and Anthony Robinson, we have people everywhere. We have GI children everywhere, okay, in every country, all around the world. There is a very vast recruiting pool, the way that the World Cup works, that we can recruit. And quite honestly, if we can just keep growing and getting better, who wouldn't want to don the stars and stripes? Because say what you will about however our politics work in this country, our sports are supported Our sports have huge fans, and our sports have money in the United States. And we bleeping win. Like Chelsea said. Chelsea, that's the most American I've ever seen her, which was, why aren't we winning? We win at everything.
Olympics, ours.
Yeah, we own everything. Why don't we own soccer yet? What is taking us so long?
Right.
Why?
But yeah, no, and it's a very fair question to ask, and I just think it goes back to, like you said, representation. One sport that we alluded to, sorry to keep using that word, that we spoke about that has representation is American football. It is, despite what a lot of people want to think or say about it, the most popular sport for viewing in the United States, and probably our second most popular sport for viewing is college football. So I will say that the NFL is crazy. The Raiders infuriate me. I cannot stand Josh McDaniels at all. I don't like that he won a couple games and got off the hot seat because he went right into Los Angeles and got beat by a quarterback that got signed the day before the game. Couldn't do anything on offense, and everybody's like, well, Derek Carr is terrible. Derek Carr sucks. He ran the ball 29 times in the second half. Derek Carr threw it once. All right? Like, enough with the Derek Carr. It's Josh McDaniels is a terrible head coach. He is awful. He doesn't know how to scheme. He doesn't know how to adjust when he's being outcoached. And Patrick Graham may be the worst offensive coordinator ever on to happier things. How about the Lions?
Honestly, I hope the Lions go through. Like, I don't think the Seahawks have much of a chance now. And honestly, I'd love to see the Lions get into the playoffs. I think I said it before. Like the year that the Lions did make the playoffs and they ran up against the Seahawks, I was kind of sad. But
you know what was wild, Chelsea?
Give me some Lions.
The Lions going into Minnesota were a favorite in that game.
Yeah,
they were a favorite in the game. And Minnesota had only had 2 losses up to that game, and the Lions were the favorite.
No
they were a
way.
2-point. Yeah, they were a 2-point favorite.
It was in Detroit, and both teams, like, their margin of victory have been like really close. Like Detroit, like most of their losses have been like by like less than a touchdown, and same with Minnesota. Most of their wins have been like a flip of a coin.
So I randomly turned the channel the other night onto ESPN News, and they had just like the most syrupy, inspirational, like the music, like the crescendos were incredible, like about the Lions and about how they've turned this year around. And like, I swear, you guys would have been weeping had you seen this. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It made me want to be a Detroit fan, but also like, come on, man. It's just the Lions. They're going to find a way to mess it up. I don't think that they're going to get into the playoffs. I think that this is just a really good streak in the middle of a season that some
shooting
teams are
star.
just kind of, that some teams are just kind of like, they're feeling like that mid-season, like mid to late season, just tired, a lot of injuries, a lot of issues, and the Lions are just capitalizing on that. But I do not think that they're going to see it through. So, I mean,
I think you'd be surprised.
I would not mind another, 30 for 30 doc on this.
Wes is ready. Wes is in an arguing mood today.
So, I mean, right now, as it stands, it's the three wild card teams are basically Dallas, Washington, and New York, all from the NFC East. But that's not going to happen because they're going to play each other and they're going to cannibalize each other coming up in the last few weeks. And I think if Detroit closes out, let's see what their last little bit of schedule is.
I think Chelsea
at Jets,
Commanders,
at Carolina, and versus Chicago. And I'm not sure what their last game is.
They're at the Jets, they're at the Panthers, at home against the Bears, and then they're at the Packers on the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, I think they win like 3 out of those 4, and that puts them at like 9 and 8, and I think that's good enough.
Quick touch on the NFL kind of sucks this year. And I'm not talking about the content. The content's been fun. I'm talking about the teams are all like 7 and 8. Like all the teams have about the same record. It's really weird. Like this year, like there's no team where I'm like, dang, they're the best team ever. Like even the Eagles,
except for the Eagles, they're 12 and 1.
No,
and they just dominated. They just dominated their last game, bro.
I just
kicked the crap out of the Giants.
Oh my gosh,
they smacked them up and down.
No, who's their quarterback? Who's
The
their
Giants.
best player on defense?
The Giants, who are currently
know.
a playoff team.
Yeah, but Daniel Jones sucks. Their best player on defense might be Leonard Williams, who's a defensive tackle. Like, they have no secondary, no linebackers. Go ahead, Chelsea.
The Giants are at the bottom of the NFC East, bro. Like, the Commanders have actually, like,
And guess what? They would be first in the
forward.
NFC South. They would be
Yeah,
first in the
okay.
NFC South.
But they're
Oh,
not.
no.
The you can't say that the
Tom Brady's
the
gonna
Giants-
do it
the
again.
Giants are playoff bound. There
Tom
we go.
Brady. Tom Brady's going to sneak in
And
again.
you know what?
He's
They
gonna
would be
make it
first-
to the playoffs.
They would be first in the AFC South, too. They would be first in 2 divisions.
Tom Brady
You know-
gets a home playoff game to start the playoffs
Well,
if he
that-
wins the NFC South. Like,
yeah.
I'm so frustrated, Fry, because you speak this into existence, and the problem is that everything other than the World Cup, you have been spot on this year. You've been just, reading that crystal ball. When it comes to the World Cup, you are
bad.
absolutely wrong. You have been completely wrong every single time.
Morocco's
going to
win it all.
Incredible.
Calling it.
Okay, you're also wrong. But I mean, the fact that you just would say this with
I
such
know.
reckless abandon, it hurts. It hurts. This guy needs to retire. Yes,
He does. He's haunting my dreams, and that's why, like, it's
I'm
not
going
my
to laugh
prediction.
when Tom Brady
it's
goes
not-
to the Super Bowl again.
It's not my
And I'm gonna
prediction,
love it.
but it's haunting my dreams because I see it happening. He's on the sideline, he's mad, he's upset, and slowly his team's getting healthier, and every other team's getting less healthy, including the Niners, who lost Deebo Samuel this weekend and lost Jimmy Garoppolo the previous weekend. And I'm just like, is he going to do it again? Is he going to
Yes.
sneak into the Super Bowl again?
He is. And I'm going to be here for it. I'm going to be here for it.
Oh,
No,
gosh, I
No.
hope not.
that's
Well-
one Super Bowl I will not be watching.
Well, here we go with the end of the show. And I know this has been a fun show. It's been a sad show. But Chelsea and I were digging around in the conspiracy. Well, mostly me was digging around the conspiracy theory bucket about them trying to lowball Aaron Judge by saying his home runs were not his home runs due to the juiced balls. No, not Christian Pulisic's. The juice balls in baseball. And he then, literally hours later, gets signed to a 10-year contract for $390 million. I think $40 million a year till he's 39 years old.
Yep.
So that good for him, right? Like you said, Chelsea, more money than anyone should have, but hate the owners, not the players. Okay, hate the owners, not the players. Good for him. He made it. He did a good job. And then last thing I'd like to get us off with was welcome home, Brittany Griner. It is too widely politicized that there were other. Who cares? An American got to come home. An American that was wrongfully detained got to come home. Go ahead.
And not in a body bag either, because when, as much politicization as we want to, there are so many different things that you could say about what happened. Well, if we look back to the previous presidency, his record with bringing home detained nationals in foreign countries was a guy in a body bag. So, I mean, just thank God she's home. Let's keep working on those diplomatic channels to bring Paul Whelan home as well. His family has been super gracious in just wishing her the best in, now that she's home. So I think we should all just kind of take a cue from that and react in the same way, that we just need to keep working on it until every single person comes home who has been wrongfully detained anywhere, not just in Russia, but everywhere.
Wes is just happy to be here.
Yeah, well, I'm happy Brittany Griner's back. I hope that she can make it back to the league. Make it back to her full potential. Because it's always fun to see her play, and I'm just glad that she's safe and healthy and back home.
I just want her to be able to mentally recover and focus on herself, on her, her wife and her relationships that she has here in the United States. And, this is one of those times where you realize that nothing really matters except
Queen
the
reference.
life that you're
Absolutely,
living.
but I don't want to see her career taken away because of this. I'd love to see her just be able to go back to playing and just have her normal life.
There's so much pressure on an athlete to just return to form, right? when there isn't as much like focus on them just being mentally and physically okay and just kind of, reprogramming themselves after such like a complex and traumatizing event like this. Like, how do you even begin to return back to normal? And I'm just kind of saying, like, there is a lot of pressure from like media and from, obviously the teams and the sponsors and everything like that. Like, get back to playing form, like get back on the court. It's going to like heal you inside and out, but maybe it's not, like she was already on a team on a professional team when she was playing in Russia. She was going through a lot. She had some injuries, which is why she even had the like THC cartridges with her in the first place. Like, maybe calls it a day as far as her professional career, and that's okay too. Like, if she wants to play and she's ready for it and she figures it out, amazing. I will be the first person on the sidelines cheering for her. If she wants to stay at home and she's just done being a pro athlete, applause all around.
We'll see. Only time can tell. I do want to give Wesley kudos. Wes was the first person to mention the Brittany Griner case on the show when it may not have been the safest thing to do so as far as bringing attention to that issue. So good on Wes for that. Welcome home, Brittany Griner. And if you have any comments or you want to talk to us about the show or you just want to be mad at us because today was a little bit sadder than usual because we acknowledge that people die in our world and we should love people, then go ahead, leave those comments as well. But you could reach us at the Sad Fan Podcast Network. You can reach me at the Sad Fan Cast, and I will give these to your comments when it comes to the show. After all that, we appreciate you, and as I said earlier, we love you.
Yeah,
Please
tell everyone you love them. Tell them
all.
Love you guys.
Love you, bro.